The blonde Bond himself, Daniel Craig, is a potential star for the feature film Sergeant Rock, which is in development with DC Studios. While nothing is known about the plot, the character first appeared in comics in 1959 as a World War II soldier and was created by Robert Kanigher and Joe Kubert. Challenger's director, Luca Guadagnino, is set to direct, and his screenwriting collaborator on both Challengers and the upcoming film Queer, Justin Kurtizkes, will pen the script. With these few details to go on, does this news rock our world?
You know, this was not on my 2024 bingo card that there would be a Sergeant Rock movie, which is a character that I don't know about you all. I had never heard of before, and I had no basis of information in. And as I read about the fact that he was a World War II soldier, I was like, there has to be something more. He's a DC character. What's his thing? What's his shtick? What's his superpower? And no, he is just a World War II soldier. And the idea that we are going to bring this character into the DCU under very interesting choices for director with Luca Guadagnino and Daniel Craig is really fascinating to me. I think whenever James Gunn took over as the head of DC Studios, the conversation that we had a lot was how James Gunn has a tendency to focus a little bit, maybe too much, on deep cut characters and really lean into deep cut characters. Now, if you want to look at that negatively, you could say, okay, the problem is with that is that people will not really want to see movies with deep cut characters or really deep cut characters. If you want to look at it positively, I think we could say James Gunn has had a lot of success with deep cut characters in his career. I mean, think of the characters he has made interesting that we hadn't heard of. Like, think of like what he did for Peacemaker. Think of what he did for Groot. Think of what he did for Polka Dot Man and Suicide Squad. Like, he made Polka Dot Man interesting. And one of the most interesting parts of that movie. And so he has success with that, of just like choosing these like really random, sometimes backwards characters, putting them on screen and making us go, wow, that's a really interesting character. But at the same time, you do, I think, have to ask yourself, looking at this proposal of a film, because we don't know, is it going to be connected to the DCU? Is it going to feel like a standalone thing? We really don't know anything about that. But I think you have to ask the question, like, is there going to be a huge audience lining up to see a superhero movie about kind of a non-superhero that's a really basically unknown character? Like, will the audience be there for that? Now, I choose to look at this and be interested in it because I really like Daniel Craig, and I really like what I've seen from Luca Guadagnino as a director. And then again, with James Gunn and his success with some of these smaller characters, I choose to be excited about this overall. Daniel Craig is also the star of the movie that you mentioned a second ago, Queer, which is positioning itself as an awards contender. And Daniel Craig is the star of that film. So these two want to work together again on something else, which is a connection just to note. But yeah, I mean, it's this bizarre thing. Like, it's a story that you kind of have to read the headline a couple times, but I think it does show us a little bit of just what we can expect, I think, from this DC universe as we move forward, is that really no characters are off limits.
Yeah. One of the really interesting things to me about this is we've already got this GI robot in Creature Commandos, and he's constantly talking about killing Nazis or whatever. So, like, then this character is a World War II soldier. I don't know if they're going to recontextualize that and he'll be a soldier in some other war, or this is going to be another, like this is going to be placed in that time period. And is Creature Commandos in general, I think that's going to be modern times, but I'm guessing there'll be some flashbacks for G.I. Robot, or we'll get some context of his career. It's just weird that they're building sort of like stuff going on in World War II. I don't know. That's interesting. And also kind of weird. Like, it's just going to be, are we going to be telling the story of Sergeant Rock while there are superheroes that exist in that world? Because we know that Superman is not the only superhero, and the superheroes have been around, it seems, for a while. So, like, will there be an alternate World War II where superheroes existed, kind of like a Wonder Woman type thing? I don't know. It's just interesting. But generally, just good talent. I have not seen either of Luca Guadagnino's movies, but the one and the one that's not out yet. But I've heard good things. So it seems like quality talent on both in front of and behind the screen. So that's can't be all bad.
Am I the only one that was part of Sergeant Rock's Lonely Rockers here? Steeped in the traditions and characters of Sergeant Rock?
Hey, this guy's a real Sergeant Rockhead.
Obviously joking. Never had any familiarity with the character. I might have heard of the character in passing with my exposure to DC, but I really like the discussion that's taken place so far. I think, Jay, you had a really good take in terms of choosing to be positive, because on the surface, this is definitely just, you pitch this and it makes me scratch my head a little bit. But I think there really is a potential to do something really interesting. And maybe I'm reading a little bit too much into things, but I noticed like the log line did not really say anything about the DCU or the DC universe. It just said DC Studios. And that may be by way of just not having much information about this film at all. But again, when, James Gunn was made the head of this studio, he talked about how it was going to be a filmmaker, auteur-driven studio, and they were going to empower filmmakers to use their voices and not really be, beholden to the constraints that come with a giant studio machine like that. So, yeah, looking at Luca Guadagnino and his track record, it's tough not to have the question, like, coming off a queer, like, is Sergeant Rock going to be gay? That's just kind of where my mind goes. Like, if you take this character that's supposed to be all macho and rah-rah, gung-ho, and kind of do a takedown of some toxic masculinity, could be a really interesting story, and I think that's right up Luca Guadagnino's alley. So I had kind of just operated under the assumption that this would take place during World War II as well as Creature Commandos, but Matt, you stirred something in my memory. I remember one of the showrunners involved said something about the Eastern Bloc influences, so that made me think maybe this is actually going to be set during the Cold War, which would actually maybe line up a little bit better in terms of Rick Flag Sr. being, Rick Flag Jr.'s father there. And then, that could, open up the door. Maybe Sergeant Rock takes place in Vietnam, because I just don't see Luca Guadagnino wanting to do something like World War II that's been visited so much in film. He'd probably want to do something. And Vietnam's been visited a lot in film, but not, that's just kind of where my mind goes.
Yeah, it's interesting. Wasn't Amanda Waller in the trailer for Creature Commandos, though? Isn't she saying, like, we're not allowed to use humans anymore, so we're using monsters? And that's, like, the whole plot. So I took that as, this is post-Suicide Squad, but I may be wrong. Like, Suicide Squad didn't go so well, Starro destroyed whatever, so now we have to go with monsters instead of humans. But it also might be a time travel thing, because there's also maybe timeline shifting going on, so who knows?
Yeah,
I had completely forgotten that Amanda Waller was in that trailer, but you're right. That's a good point.
She's the head of it, and I think it's either... I don't think she's that much different in age either. So I think like it's somewhere around the time of Suicide Squad. Sure. Of course, that's a different universe. So who knows? Amanda Waller may exist in World War II in this version. Who knows? The whole thing, the whole DCU might be happening in the 40s. I don't know.
There have been a couple attempts to bring Sergeant Rock to the screen as well.
Weird.
There have been 2 times. The first time Arnold Schwarzenegger was attached, and the second time Bruce Willis was attached. So there have been a couple attempts up until this point to bring this character out there.
I wonder if it's going to be... I don't know anything about this character. I looked it up ever so briefly. He's in the Army, World War II, NCO. Okay, great. I wonder if it's going to be like James Gunn's antithesis to Captain America.
That's interesting.
Like, I've got this guy. I don't know.
Really highlight the difference in the two studios. Like, really like, no, this is what World War II is like.
No, I need a World War II soldier character. Find him for me. And they're like, well, we got this guy. He's just a soldier. He's like, it'll do.
And Luca Guadagnino likes to do evocative things, so that could play into his wheelhouse pretty well. I could also see it being very like humorous and glossy, and on the subject of musicals, like I could see it having some campy element to it that could be really fun and would fit very much in line with what we've seen from James Gunn so far.
Yeah. All right. Well, that one's going to be interesting to follow for sure. You just watched a clip from Multiverse News. If you liked it, go to our channel. We got a whole episode that it comes from. So go check that out and hit the like and subscribe. And we got lots of clips you'll enjoy, but also full hour-long episodes of Multiverse News with lots of things that don't even make it to clips. So check us out.
You stay clippy.